There had been protests scheduled for this week against Netanyahu, where organizers expected tens of thousands to flood the streets. That's all changed now. Patrick.Netanyahu now heads an emergency government and holds a mandate to lead, for however long it takes, until we track down and capture all those involved in this crime. As you're already aware, suspicion is ridging through conservative circles following the shocking death of Charlie Kirk. The moment the news broke, major voices began tearing the official narrative apart, poking holes and outright rejecting it. Which leads to the burning question: was Kirk really taken out by a single hate-fueled kid? Or was this a calculated, politically motivated hit carried out by unseen forces? Who stood to benefit? Let's dig deeper. My administration is committed to identifying every person who had a hand in this atrocity, including those who support and fund political violence in any form. Newly filed court documents, containing the alleged killer's own statements, should have put rumors to rest. But instead, they've only added fuel to the fire. I was present at that horrifying scene. It doesn't matter who the person is. Yes. Who killed Charlie? A left-wing radical conspiracy theories are now everywhere, spreading rapidly. Not only among far-right supporters who never believed the official account, but also creeping into leftist communities. More and more people are quietly asking the same disturbing questions. I don't know. I think this came out of nowhere. I never saw it coming. Since I knew him growing up, he was always a kind, respectful, genuine kid. On the surface, the MAGA movement appeared to be a unified army marching in lockstep. Raise your hands. Come on. But Kirk's death shattered that illusion, prompting allies to call for flags to be lowered in his memory. For the public, doubt exploded the instant Tyler Robinson was arrested. A clean-cut young Mormon with no extremist ties, no manifesto, no online rants, no political footprint. It simply didn't make sense. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend, who then contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with claims that Robinson had either confessed or implied he was responsible for the attack. The theories born from Kirk's death have warped into a hall of political mirrors, each reflection distorting the truth, each version stoking fear from both ends. For conservatives, it's a nightmare scenario, a government so corrupt, it would silence one of its own just to tighten its grip on power. To them, it's evidence not only of corruption, but cold-blooded ruthlessness. For progressives, the fear lies elsewhere. It's not about who carried out the act, it's about what's coming next. Kirk's sudden martyrdom could be twisted, repurposed into a weapon to power a movement even more extreme than anything he stood for. His name could become a battle cry, louder, sharper, unstoppable, almost instantly. Left-leaning social media pushed a new theory. Tyler Robinson wasn't just a random assailant. He was a groper, a known online follower of Nick Fuentes, and a longtime irritant to Kirk himself. The narrative was irresistible. Picture it. Kirk, the tireless MAGA evangelist, allegedly brought down not by the left, but by someone even more radical from the right. To his critics, it was the perfect dark irony. Everyone waiting for a concrete motive. If reports of him being a chronically online groper are true, there may be no motive at all. But the so-called evidence is paper thin. A single photo of Robinson squatting in a tracksuit was circulated as proof, despite it being just a Slavic meme, with no connection to Pepe or groper culture. Then came the Spotify playlist, ominously titled Groper Wars. It was hyped up as incriminating, but in reality, it had fewer than 10 followers before the shooting, and its tracks were benign, like Huey Lewis's Hip to Be Square. Hardly the soundtrack of a radical militant. Once the dust settled, and all the online panic and speculation was stripped away, nothing solid was left. No manifesto. No cryptic symbols, no verifiable link to Fuentes or his movement. It was just noise, loud, chaotic, and meaningless. But the most explosive, politically radioactive conspiracy didn't bubble up from obscure corners of the left. It originated inside the right's own house, and it came with a name attached. Candace Owens, once one of Charlie Kirk's closest allies, his rally co-star and a trusted partner, was the one who struck the match. "I'm being contacted by a lot of people," she said. "People telling me that just 48 hours before Charlie died, his top Jewish donors were pulling their funding. demanding he take their name off the building they had given to Turning Point. On her show, Owens didn't tiptoe around. She suggested Kirk hadn't been killed by some random aimless young man at all. According to her, it looked much more like punishment for daring to waver in his loyalty to Israel. She drew a portrait of powerful billionaires operating in the shadows, leaning on Kirk, pressuring him to stay in line. Then she dropped her real bombshell. Owens named names. She accused financier Bill Aman directly of threatening Kirk. More than one event, she said. Essentially, an intervention was staged by Bill Aman because of Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel. With a single move, Owens yanked the conversation away from grief and straight into a tale of intrigue and betrayal. Suddenly, the story wasn't about a lone gunman or even a government cover-up. It became about whether dissent over Israel had become so dangerous that even one of the most loyal conservative influencers could lose his life for it. And once that idea entered the bloodstream, speculation took on a life of its own. Charlie was surrounded by his friends, quote-unquote friends. Bill Aman was very upset and threats were made, she said. Her accusations didn't last long before being hit back hard. Bill Aman himself stepped in to deny ever threatening Kirk, calling the claims reckless fiction. But the real blow came next. Rob McCoy, Kirk's pastor, stepped into the chaos with a moral hammer. He didn't erupt in anger. He arrived in sanctimony. McCoy rebuked Owens, not only dismissing her claims as baseless, but framing them as cruel, as if she were tormenting a grieving family already torn apart by loss. Then he twisted the knife with one line that landed like a sermon. He would never have treated Candace or her family this way had, God forbid, the tragedy been hers. It was less a rebuttal than a spiritual dressing down, the kind meant to slam the lid on Owens's version of events once and for all. But by then, the fire was already out of control. The accusations had been spoken, recorded, shared, clipped, and spread. The retractions may have silenced the stage, but the audience had already left buzzing with suspicion. The damage, as always, was done. Law enforcement's version of events is painfully plain, almost dull compared with the wild chaos online. Tyler Robinson, 22, an electrician in training with a streak of left-leaning politics, was the lone shooter. No billionaires whispering in shadows. No secret handlers lurking. Just one kid, a gun, and a decision that tore everything apart. The proof, they say, is airtight. Robinson's DNA on a towel wrapped around the gun. Texts reading like a diary of rage. Angry admissions tying him directly to the act. Every piece clicks together too neatly. It's tidy. It's ordinary. And that's why it doesn't stick with a public prime to see hidden hands everywhere. It feels almost too clean, too simple to swallow. Court filings strip it bare. Robinson told his partner, "Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard." There, a handwritten note spelled it out. "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." The texts that followed were a confession in real time. I'm sorry," he wrote bluntly. "I had enough of his hatred." Some hate can't be negotiated out. This wasn't a snap decision. Robinson planned it for just over a week, caught between panic over the rifle left behind and shame tied to his father. A diehard MAGA loyalist, and the darkest line of all. He wanted to keep this secret till I died of old age. Caught. He begged his partner to erase everything and stay silent with the media. That plea, frozen in court papers, will never disappear. Instead of uniting the movement in grief, the arrest shredded reality. Right-wing commentators reshaped the story, rejecting the official account. Robinson wasn't the end of the mystery. They argued he was a distraction, a pawn, a placeholder keeping eyes off the real players. Some even claimed picking a normal, religious kid was deliberate, to make it look random, senseless, impossible to trace. In their telling, only a massive cover-up could hold all the holes together. And the more the government insisted Robinson acted alone, the more these voices dug in, convinced the truth was buried under layers of lies. Every tidy line in the government's timeline only makes it look more suspicious. And no one is leaning into that doubt harder than Steve Bannon. On his podcast, Bannon rips the story apart day after day. He calls it a vast conspiracy, daring his listeners to poke holes in every detail. This isn't just a single murder, he says. It's not just one man taken down. There's a vast conspiracy behind. This Antifa needs to be labeled a domestic terrorist organization. Michael Savage went even further. No coded language, no hedging. He thundered, "Something is wrong with this entire picture. Something's wrong. I know I shouldn't do this. I'm risking a lot going up against this FBI, the MAGA FBI. Something is very wrong. Raw, unfiltered, exactly what his audience craved. Savage gave voice to what many on the right were already thinking. The official story isn't just incomplete. It reeks of manipulation. The suspicion spreading, like smoke, was that the truth isn't missing by mistake, it's being buried. I can't take it anymore, he raged. I can't take the from this. Government, it's lying to us, something's wrong, and this isn't coming out of thin air, it's being fed by government missteps. FBI. Director Kash Patel jumped the gun with a tweet announcing a suspect was in custody. Wrong. Then on Fox, he claimed Robinson left a note about the shooting, only to later admit it had been mysteriously destroyed. 2 blunders in a row, and conspiracy theorists had their spark. Every stumble stacked the wall of doubt higher. Owen Schroyer, Alex Jones's InfoWars heir, summed it up. Now it just feels like a cover-up on top of a cover-up. For a movement trained to smell betrayal, Patel's mistakes weren't just errors. They were neon proof something was rotten. And just when the circus seemed over, in walked George Zinn, a 71-year-old drifter with a long record of petty crimes and crashing public events. Zinn was picked up right after the shooting. Why? Police say he shouted he was the shooter, apparently to give the real suspect cover. "Kill me," he yelled. "We don't know if it's him or not. How dare you? How dare you?" Now he's in jail for obstruction, plus a separate bust for possessing illegal material involving minors. Authorities say there's no link between Zinn and Robinson, but the bizarre image of an old man diving into the middle of a criminally thickened the fog. Then there's Robinson himself, locked up in a Utah jail on special watch, or label for inmates who might harm themselves or need constant monitoring for reasons officials won't explain. That silence leaves the public with more questions than answers. The strangest detail didn't come from the crime scene or courtroom. It came from home. Robinson's roommate, also reportedly his partner, is transgender. Investigators say this partner has been fully cooperative from the start, and officials insist it has no bearing on the case. Still, given Charlie Kirk's history of attacking the trans community, the irony was impossible to miss. To many, it felt like a bitter twist in an already messy story. After all the evidence, texts, filings, conspiracies, slip-ups, and contradictions, the fog only thickens. The truth shifts depending on the lens. The record exists, but so does suspicion, fueled by mistakes, secrecy, and unanswered questions piling up. Are we any closer to the truth? Not really. Each new detail only fractures the story further. Conspiracies don't grow solely from anger. They grow because nothing fits. Every part feels too sharp or too smooth, too simple or too messy, and so we wait, unsure if the official story is true or if this tale will stay trapped between fact and doubt. Charlie Kirk's end is tragic, a senseless blow that rocked his movement. But there's a dark irony. He built his brand on conspiracies, twisting and profiting from them, wielding fear like a weapon. London was 95% white in the 1920s. It is now 29% white. Yeah, now again. I don't think whites are better than anyone else. But it's just not London anymore. They're the indigenous population. Exactly. And I thought we were against mass replacement. That's ethnic cleansing, isn't it? And now he's been swallowed by the very force he once used on others. His killing has become the nucleus of a sprawling web of speculation, the most potent political conspiracy theory since John F. Kennedy's assassination. And like Kennedy, Kirk is no longer just a man. He's a myth. His death has been transformed into a story with no ending, destined to be debated, twisted, and repurposed for decades. The real tragedy isn't just that Charlie Kirk is gone, it's what his loss has become. Instead of closure, a blank canvas splashed with the ugliest suspicions of a fractured nation. The official story frames it neatly. Young man with a grudge pulled the trigger. Case closed. But that neatness feels fake, too polished, too easy to swallow, and so the speculation grows, branching everywhere. On paper, the case against Tyler Robinson looks airtight. But in the public's mind, it's only cracking open. The heavier question still hangs in the air like smoke. Who really wanted Kirk erased? And until that question lands, the shadow over him will only spread. If you found this story disturbing, confusing, or eye-opening, you're not alone. The questions aren't going away. The silence isn't comforting. And the truth? It's still hiding in plain sight. So don't just scroll past, ask more. Demand better, stay loud. Stay watching. Because if we don't hold power accountable, the next headline could be yours.